Ninja the Mission Force. Witness outstanding action-adventure in search for the ultimate power of the 6 alien ninja warriors.
Once I, Bruce, have all 6, I will have ultimate ninja power and rule the world.
Andy, I'm about to face a ninja challenge.
What's a ninja?
Just a fairy tale. They don't exist.
Ninja the Mission Force. The weapon, the subtlety, the authenticity of traditional ninja forces explode into violent conflict.
Gordon, I need you to go into space. Okay, I will.
Ninja the Mission Force. Glamorous Hollywood superstars join forces in one complete, seamless movie that's totally one movie.
You sound like you're in a well.
It's called speakerphone. Get with the decade, man. Run! It's the greatest ninja of all!
Ninja the Mission Force. An evil ninja challenges a righteous ninja. Only a ninja can defeat a ninja. Ninja, 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 ninja. Ninja the Mission Force. Coming soon on this screen.
Welcome, my friends, to Power Rangers Ninja Steel. So right off the bat, I apologize if the presentation for this one is a little lacking in motion. In case you hadn't heard, changes to YouTube's Content ID algorithm means that the amount of video footage I've been able to use at a time on videos like History of Power Rangers has gone down from no longer than 15 seconds to about 7 seconds. Naturally, this sucks and I'll have to resort to using more still frames and less clips from the actual episodes. And that unfortunately means you'll have to take my word more often on stuff like dramatic things the characters say, showing off morphing sequences, all that. Any longer than 7 seconds and all my hard work just means that Toei and Hasbro get to make more money off of me. And yes, it seems with the release of new History of Power Rangers every 2 years comes news and developments and things that I can't really offer more than a shrug for when people ask for my thoughts, because, I don't know, maybe Hasbro is doing good with it, maybe they're not. I haven't watched any of Beast Morphers, and I won't until the entire series is out on DVD, and when I'm prepping for the History of Power Rangers video on it. Which, yes, for the first time they've gone backwards and are adapting Go Busters. Just like I said they probably wouldn't do in the Dino Charge retrospective, because I am a fan who speculates on things and not a psychic. What I can talk about, though, is the past, which now includes this season. Ninja Steel marks the end of the neo-saban era, which, for better or worse, definitely seemed to reawaken pop culture consciousness in the brand, with new legacy toys, new fans, new comics, even a shiny new movie that I'm never doing a History of Power Rangers episode on, because History of Power Rangers is about the TV show only. Not games, not comics, not tabletop RPGs, not movies, unless it's plot relevant like Turbo was, just the TV show and nothing else. And unfortunately, for several seasons, the TV show has been mixed at best. I felt that Dino Charge was a breath of fresh air after Samurai and Megaforce. While it had its problems with story, underdeveloped aspects, plus the space-time continuum getting drunk and humping a pinball machine nightmare that was its finale, I felt it was a pretty fun show and a nice return to form after everything that went wrong with the seasons before it. I'd like to think part of that is the lack of pressure to perform. Samurai needed to be decent enough to bring new brand awareness to the show, while Megaforce had high expectations as the big anniversary seasons. But both were horribly mismanaged by people who either didn't care about those aspects or had highly skewed priorities for them. Dino Charge just had to be a decent show, which it was. Can the same be said for Ninja Steel, though? Well, let's find out. The season begins with Return of the Prism, and a heaping boatload of exposition. When I first watched this, I thought it was one of those pre-teaser segments that explained the basic premise of the show, except it just kept going. The gist of it is that 10 years ago, an object called the Ninja Nexus Prism fell out of the sky into the backyard of, conveniently, a family of ninjas. After scraping away some kind of steel coating on the prism, the father was able to pull out the Ninja Nexus Star, a device that a group of monsters want. He instructed one of his sons, Aiden, to take the scrapings, identified as Ninja Steel, and to hide with it until he returned.
Like a ninja.
Friggin' Naruto didn't mention ninjas this much! The father rescues his other son, Brody, from the monsters, who demand the Ninja Nexus Star. When he hesitates in handing it over, one shoots him, but when he blocks the blast with the star, he transforms into a Red Ranger. These must be pretty old powers, too. He's covered in dust. He gets blasted hard enough to demorph, and the monster takes the star, leading us into our theme song. It's not good. It has some vaguely stereotypical Japanese chords in it, and it's kind of a rock song, but it just sounds like it's off-key, or at least played in a minor key, which sounds weird in a Power Rangers theme. Not helped by the fact that it seems to go through several key changes in general. Like with Dino Charge, it incorporates Go-Go Power Rangers into it, but instead of sounding like a natural payoff with the rest of the song, it too sounds kind of off. While they'll use an instrumental of it sometimes throughout the show, they actually revert back to the instrumentals for Samurai and Dino Charge more often, of course taking the time to omit the lyrics. To keep the monsters from having the star, the father takes up a sword and slices it into 6 pieces. And I'd just like to note that right before that, the monster said that with it, he'd be invincible. But how invincible can it really make you if a normal sword can break the thing? After the explosion, the father disappeared and the Ninja Nexus Prism just appeared in his place. And within it, the star transformed into 6 Ninja Power Stars. The lead monster, Galvanax, is unable to retrieve the stars, and so they just take Brody and the Prism with them onto the ship. We cut to 10 years later, where Brody is now on board a spaceship with 2 others, Redbot and Mechanic. Because I guess in space, people aren't really imaginative when it comes to naming things. Brody wants to escape the ship.
Brody, we are on a spaceship. Where are we going to escape to?
I don't know, given the timeline, you could probably contact SPD at this point. I'm sure they'd be happy to pick you up, Boom. Yes, Kelson Henderson is back in a supporting role. Another New Zealand actor who could have made a reappearance during Megaforce, but we were too busy worrying about whether Rangers never let go of their weapons. Troy would have a fit in this series, which includes lots of throwing stars. Anyway, the 3 are slaves to the monsters, Mick can also shapeshift, who host a space-televised fighting tournament called Galaxy Warriors. Those who fight in the tournament will be given a chance to try to pull one of the power stars out of the prism. It also gives us a chance to see some reused monster costumes, obviously with different names, as we see one of the Fear Cats fighting one of Venjix's robot buddies. Admittedly though, considering this takes place in space and in a different universe from RPM, you could argue we're just seeing an actual Fear Cat fighting Venjix's counterpart in this universe. But nah, it's just a matter of reusing costumes, like what happened last season with Necroli. Don't expect me to point out every instance of them doing so. There are a lot in the audience shots. Anyway, Fear Cat costume fails, and one of Galvanax's servants, Madame Odious, suggests that instead of trying to pull out the stars, they could try to construct the power stars themselves, utilizing the ninja steel that was coating the prism when it landed on Earth 10 years ago. And only just now they thought of this. Overhearing this, our 3 heroes decide they have to stop them. On Earth, we're introduced to our other Rangers at Summer Cove High School. Preston, who dresses like a stereotypical magician and does magic tricks. I've got to say, he pulls off the look. I'm actually sad that later on he drops it for normal clothes. Calvin, who's doing mechanic work. Haley, inside of the car with the mechanic work being done. And finally, Martha McFly. Yeah, this is Sarah, and she is on a hoverboard. Like proper Back to the Future 2 advanced technology friggin' hoverboard. We later learn it's well-known technology, though she did build this one on her own. While it's shocking to just see this out of the gate in a series that seems to be taking place in the modern day, and apparently made by a teenager, it should be remembered that Billy invented a flying car in his garage. Although that does raise the question of why we have normal cars when hover tech is around. Brody, Mick, and Redbot make their escape from the ship as it arrives on Earth, while Sarah goes into the school, this being her first day. There, she's introduced to stereotypical 80s nerd Monty and jock superstar god Victor Vincent.
Just look at these trophies, because my name's engraved on every last one of them.
Not since Bob Corby has there been such a legend in our midst. He takes her hoverboard for a spin and ends up interrupting Preston's magic show and dumping himself into a compost bin. Sarah demands he apologize to Preston.
Trust me, this is the first time anyone's actually enjoyed one of his magic shows.
Dude quick changed into a dragon costume in like 2 seconds. Why the hell wouldn't they be impressed by that? Man, ever since we got hoverboards, everyone's become so jaded. On the ship, the keys that the three stole for a shuttle to bring them to Earth get destroyed, so they do the next best thing: jumping out of the garbage chute, while they're miles above the surface. What prevents this from becoming Power Rangers Ninja Splat is Redbot using his jet boots to catch Brody, while Mick shapeshifts to survive the crash. Before you ask why they haven't tried to escape like this before, Redbot's jet boots are kind of limited, since the added weight of Brody makes it difficult for him to navigate, and they still end up crashing, just not as hard. Spotting the crash, Preston and Sarah head out to investigate it, while Galvanax dispatches the Fear Cat monster, yeah, it has another name, but who cares, it's the Fear Cat costume, to go retrieve the Prism. The Fear Cat beats up Brody while Redbot looks for Mick, but is saved by the arrival of Preston and Sarah.
See, I told you that wasn't a guy in a costume.
That line raises so many questions about this franchise and how ordinary people see monsters. Before Brody can answer their questions, he notices the power stars glowing and reaches in, retrieving the red star. Sarah and Preston do the same, obtaining the pink and blue stars respectively. Morphers appear in their hands and, like 10 years prior, a blast from the Fear Cat transforms them into Rangers. I like the Ninja Steel outfits. They look, no pun intended, very sharp. I mean, design-wise, it feels like there are a lot of sharp angles in their outfits, particularly thanks to the helmets and the sashes on them. Like Ninja Storm, the arms are a different, darker color than the rest, which gives them a more unique aesthetic, given how suits are usually focused on their primary colors and white or gold. Not much to say about the Morphers. I like that they're unique devices again, plus it's always fun to have a return to the item needed to power the device method of the original Morphers, though they do seem a bit bulky. Sure, I liked the Megaforce Tiki Head Morphers for being bigger, but these things just seem a bit unwieldy given the star design. They use their ninja blasters to destroy the Fear Cat, because, you know, blasters are the height of ninja technology. Later, the group is burying the Prism under some rocks. You'd think Galvanax would be able to scan for it from orbit. And they elect to go find Aiden and the Ninja Steel. And then the Prism rises out of the ground and flies off. Jerk move by the Prism. They just spent like an hour burying it. This leads us into our second episode, Forged in Steel. We meet up with Calvin and Haley again, and they have a dog! Look at the pupper! Its name is Cody, and it's wonderful, and I want to give it all the pets. Man, how come it took us over 20 years to have a dog in this show? And I don't mean like a one-episode dog. Cody's around in this show the whole run, and the fact that we haven't had a dog or some kind of adorable pet be a part of the main characters until this point is mind-boggling. Oh, shut up, you know what I meant. Calvin and Haley are actually dating, which is frankly more shocking than anything else, given how the show has become so averse to proper romance. Anyway, both Mick and the rest of the garbage land in front of their car, which is not a hover car.
I was promised flying cars.
He's shocked to learn that they don't know about the Galaxy Warriors show, but he expects them to at least know Brody.
He's from on Earth! Brody! You know, Brody! Brody!
I mean, maybe if your friend was the famous Victor Vincent, they'd know. Anyway, the three are attacked by the foot soldiers of the season, Kudabots. Kudabots are okay design-wise. We don't get a lot of blue foot soldiers, and I like the grid pattern on their outfits. The Casa hats are a little anachronistic, since they're obviously meant to fit in with a more traditional Japanese stuff for the Sentai side, but it works just fine here, although we see a modified form later without them. They look properly armored, too, which is a bit different for foot soldiers. After they escape, Galvanax laments how a bunch of teenagers are defeating him and getting hold of the Power Stars. So he decides to do something about this, altering the Galaxy Warriors contest. Anyone who can destroy the Rangers and take the Power Stars can become a Galaxy Warriors champion like him. Yes, you too can be a Galaxy Warrior, like Anubi, or Magnon, or Baltard. Just kidding, no one wants to be like Baltard. Charge! They take Mick back to the high school shop class to get him tools to repair his communicator, but the principal spots him and assumes he's the new shop teacher who had previously turned down the job. Because, you know, most schools hire people without ever meeting them first. Victor Vincent also thinks he's the shop teacher.
I'm Victor Vincent. Six-pack abs, impeccable teeth.
Gaze upon his radiant beauty even as he's covered in paint. And you know he's awesome because he no-sells it too. The others arrive at Brody's old house, but he can't find his brother anywhere. He has a bit of a breakdown from not finding him. It doesn't last long, but it's a nice character moment given he hasn't seen him in 10 years, and it's probably overwhelming to dream of coming home for so long, only to not have, well, home. Thinking the ninja steel might be hidden in the dirt, a trick they had learned as kids, they start digging as he explains that before Galvanax showed up, his father had been in the process of melting down the steel to forge into special ninja stars. Unfortunately, after digging up a box that might have contained it, they find it empty save for a photo of their family along with a trophy that their father had won. Sarah recognizes the trophy from the case that Victor Vincent had showed off earlier, but one of Galvanax's buzz cams, tiny robotic cameras that they use to film the fights, observes this and learns of the steel's location, and thus a monster is dispatched to retrieve it. Fortunately, Mick fixes the communicator and gets in touch, allowing our heroes to compare notes. The monster, who is made of chainsaws, and that is amazing, tries to take the trophy from Mick, but he survives a full-on blast from it, while Calvin and Haley fight it with a tennis racket and a baseball bat. Unsuccessfully, of course. The Prism suddenly shows up again to save Mick from the monster, Calvin and Haley able to obtain the yellow and white stars respectively, while the Prism flies off again. Everyone unites and morphs. The morphing sequence is nothing too special. They spin the morpher, the star spins around them to form their outfits, and that's pretty much it. During the fight, we learn that the morphers have alternate fight modes. A blade, a claw, a bow mode, etc. It's pretty cool when the morphers are more versatile like that, though considering they already have blasters and swords, it feels like they have a bit of an excessive amount of weapons to start off with. Galvanax's ship is able to make the monster grow, and I love how it's part of the show. They wheel out a big device and yell, "Gigantify!" while working the crowd up to give the monster a second chance. The Prism returns, showing off Zords that Mick comments are part of the legend of the thing. The throwing stars that Brody's father made are among the ninja steel scrapings, and they start glowing, tying the Zords directly into them, creating Zord stars for them to summon, which are hidden as parts of the city, including a building with a false wall. It's okay though, that was probably the abandoned warehouse district. The individual Zords don't actually have cockpits. They operate them from the outside with their swords, and strangely, they destroy the monster using their handheld blasters instead of their Zord weapons. Why do they need the Zords if the handheld weapons are strong enough to take them out? Back at the high school, they hide the Prism at the shop class's paint room, since the painting machine was busted earlier by Victor Vincent. They decide to use it as their hideout, though why not just use Brody's house? Sure, the monsters know where it is, but they can probably track it to the high school too, especially since Aiden already hid something there. It seems like the Rangers are more worried about other students finding out about this stuff. Brody apologizes for bringing the others into all this, though Mick suspects that it wasn't an accident, that the Prism knew the threat Galvanax posed and deliberately chose the 5 of them to stop him. As they start getting ready to make secret entrances to their base, Sarah points out that there were supposed to be 6 stars inside of it, but the 6th one, the gold one, is missing, having been pulled out at some point before it returned to the group. On board Galvanax's ship, we see that it was his general, Madame Odious, who retrieved it. Return of the Prism and Forged in Steel are a pretty solid start to the show. It doesn't have a lot in terms of character development or directions for the characters to go, other than Brody's search for his brother and father, but it gets the job done. It helps that all the characters are likable. Even Victor is incredibly charming in how full of himself he is, and how he is also his own worst enemy. This is also the only neo-saban era show where they don't have a mentor. Mick is the closest they get to that role in these episodes because he's the oldest and most experienced, but he's really only there as an advisor. We get something new with Brody with his disconnect from Earth for 10 years, while also having a similar kind of quest to Tyler from Dino Charge, with his search for his family, yet an even more personal connection to the villains with how he was their prisoner for a decade. Speaking of the villains, they're a mixed bag. On one hand, I love the game show angle they take with the tournament. It's a unique way of recruiting new monsters and gives us a new take of a villain like the showman host of Galaxy Warriors, Cosmo Royale, and how the Rangers actually provided the show with their highest ratings yet. Galvanax, on the other hand, is pretty disappointing. He's just your standard gravelly-voiced, over-designed, generic monster. I would have preferred Cosmo Royale be the main villain, sure, wanting the power stars, but recognizing how he can use his galactic TV show as a stepping stone to greater things. In the next episode, Live and Learn, we see Mick using the ninja steel to forge new throwing stars. And, well, throwing it into the Prism, reforging it into element stars that allows them to use elemental forces like water, metal, fire, etc. as part of their weapons. They construct new weapons the same way. We also see them in these new weird training uniforms that I guess they just made in between episodes. The audience can also choose to not gigantify a monster, and instead they'll just unleash a different one that already starts giant-sized. It's not done very often, but it is something that occurs. The Ninja Steel Megazord at first isn't anything too noteworthy, aside from the fact that with the way it forms, it looks like the Red Zord is actually piloting a power loader or a mech suit or something with how it sits in the middle of the whole thing. Later, we see that it reconfigures the Zord formation on it, like making the Blue Dragon Zord the central figure and granting it flight abilities. The internal cockpit is very reminiscent of the Samurai Megazord, especially with how there's a Mega mode to control it, though in this case it's the Ninja Master mode, granting them some new armor. I thought the upgraded Samurai ones looked better personally, though I give it credit for one thing: when they do their finisher move, it turns their upgraded sword into a chainsaw.
Show's over. Ninjas win.
What, actually having your catchphrase match the theme of your series instead of being a generic platitude? That's not very super mega win of you, Ninja Steel. The legend of the Prism, or at least of the Ninja Steel, is that it can grant you your innermost desire, as first demonstrated when Preston gains magic powers like he's always wanted. And just like how they can forge new devices and weapons using the Ninja Steel combined with the Prism, they can also form new Zords, like the Rumble Tusk Ninja Zord, which has both an animal and fighting mode that in turn can combine with the Megazord. Near the end of My Friend Redbot, Madame Odious reveals that she has a secret chamber where she's keeping the gold power star, as well as a human attached to a salad bowl and wires on their head, referring to them as a stowaway. I'm pretty sure she's using this to make a clone of Bruce Lee. Also, we later learn that he is not, in fact, a stowaway. We get another new Zord, the Astro Zord, which is a ninja star-shaped UFO that transforms into its own fighting mode as well, and in turn allows them to fly into space. You know, that old ninja cliche. At the end of its debut episode, Hack Attack, the Astro Zord flies up, blasts a hole where they're keeping the captured person, and frees them. They grab the Power Star and transform into the Gold Ranger, leaping into the Astro Zord and escaping. Although considering Galvanax's ship makes no effort to retaliate, the implication seems to be that all they have to do is fly that thing up and destroy Galvanax's ship to win the fight with them. The Astro Zord lands in the city plaza and releases the Gold Ranger, who runs off. The Rangers observe the landing on the news. Leading into our next episode, Gold Rush. The Gold Ranger's been quite busy over the past few weeks, with Galvanax continually sending monsters down to take him, but he easily dispatches them and runs off before the other Rangers can arrive. We're soon introduced to Levi Weston, a famous country music singer that everyone but Brody is a fan of. During a monster attack, Brody saves him, and we see that his manager has the gold power star in his briefcase. The monsters take the manager prisoner, thinking he's the Gold Ranger, but of course we saw enough of him on the ship to know that that isn't the case. What we do see is that those black training outfits before are basically proper ninja gear for them, which they use to rescue the manager. Kudos for actually using them for stealth, even though it's the middle of the day. Levi shows up to help save the Rangers, and indeed he morphs, revealing himself as the Gold Ranger. So, about the Gold Ranger, lots of little details to share. 1, he has a sword that is also a guitar, meaning we indeed have the return of the ancient ninja electric guitar. 2, his outfit is inspired by a cowboy, with his helmet kind of shaped like a hat, and his shield is almost a parody, with the edge looking like frills. I kind of really love it. 3, in the Sentai, his morpher was a burger. I repeat, his morpher was a burger. And they didn't adapt that part? Come on! You're saying the Ninja Nexus Star doesn't like burgers? The Burger Morpher actually makes an appearance in the next episode as his phone. After they defeat a monster, they bring Levi back to the command shop class, where Redbot and Mick see another image in the prism of a new Zord flying through space. He identifies it as coming from the Lion Galaxy, but is hesitant to say anything more about it. Levi explains that the prism flew up to him a while ago and pulled out the gold power star before it flew off, but was then taken prisoner by Madame Odious. In the next episode, we learn that Levi is actually in the middle of a world tour, and after his concert in California, which they actually for the first time in the show confirm in dialogue that the town is in that state, is going to be gone for 3 months to finish it. That gets resolved by the end by postponing the tour in the wake of the destruction of the concert hall he was performing in, and him just deciding to stay in town. I'm sure it's a great comfort to all the people who had previously purchased tickets. We also see his Zord, which is more like two, the Robo Rider and Ninja Bull Zord, and unlike the others, he actually has a cockpit, which is just bizarre to me, considering the entire idea of these Zords is a robot riding on top of a bull with wheels. Feels like this one especially should be him riding on top of it. They also combine into the Bull Rider Megazord. Nothing too major to mention with it. After a battle with a monster in The Ranger Ribbon, someone watches the Rangers as they demorph, and later goes to meet with them. Brody asks if he knows him.
Do you know me? I'm Aiden.
This leads us to Poisonous Plots, where Aiden explains about what happened after the battle 10 years ago. Fearful that Galvanax would come after him too, he bummed a ride out of town on a train car, and doesn't really go into detail afterwards. He came back after hearing about the Power Rangers on TV, figuring that it meant Brody had returned. He's curious to view the command shop class, but Mick thinks it's a bad idea for now, claiming it's only for Power Rangers. And robots. And shape-shifting aliens with big eyebrows, I guess. Something is clearly up with him. During a sparring session, he seems overly enthusiastic about fighting at full strength. Then when Brody gets poisoned by a monster, he wants to agree to a deal where they hand over the power stars for the antidote. And indeed, in the final moments of the episode, it's of course revealed that Aiden is working for Madame Odious. In the following episode, Aiden convinces Ripcon, the other general for Galvanax that hasn't done anything important enough to mention up to now, to attack the city while he searches for the Rangers' base. He agrees, though it's shown that he had no idea Aiden was supposed to be evil. Once again, Madame Odious working on her own agenda. He does indeed locate it and goes in, stunning Mick and Redbot before trying to take the Ninja Steel. However, Levi enters before he can get away. Their fight takes them outside, where he keeps shooting at Levi. He redirects one of his blasts back at him.
How could you betray your own brother?
I am no one's brother.
My god, it was no coincidence that we saw Venjix at the beginning of the season. Clearly he's sending out Terminators! The other Rangers arrive and instantly shoot him down. Like, it's only a second after Levi announces that he's a robot that they just start going kill crazy. I guess Aiden really pissed them off. If these guys had been in Megaforce, they'd have blasted down Robo Knight before Troy finished yelling, "You have a mission to fulfill!" Anyway, the blast sends some kind of information stream from Aiden into Levi, transferring memories in particular. Galvanax assumes that Ripcon is responsible for Aiden and for holding the Gold Ranger, which pisses him off something fierce for not informing him of that. As such, he gives him one final chance to take out the Rangers, growing him giant-sized. They're able to destroy him once and for all by combining their two Megazords into the Ninja Fusion Zord. At a talent show, Brody starts performing a song his father had wrote for him and Aiden to keep their spirits up after their mom died, and Levi wanders off and starts having flashbacks to his imprisonment aboard Galvanax's ship. In particular, of Madame Odious saying that all of his childhood memories will be taken and put into the Aiden android. The Aiden droid, if you will. Yep, Levi is actually Aiden. With his memories restored, and the two brothers embrace in a legitimately heartwarming moment, even if the song they're singing is pretty crap, Levi explains that when their father told them to hide, he changed his name to avoid detection. Later, in The Royal Rival, that ship from the Lion Galaxy arrives, bringing Princess Viera, who vows to destroy the Rangers along with her bodyguard, Drillion. And really, it should be pronounced Drillion, considering, lion and drills, but whatever. During the fight, a deflected blast from Drillion almost sends Viera to the ground, but Sarah saves her. She has Drillion call off the attack. Galvanax suggests to Drillion that if she shows any sign of weakness, like not fighting the Rangers, he could take the throne for himself. After seeing Sarah help a boy who had tried to steal from her, Viera realizes the error of her ways, and Drillian goes on the attack. To help them, Viera brings her own ship down and forces Drillian into retreat, but Galvanax shoots her ship down, leading us into the Royal Rumble. Viera goes to the Rangers for help with her ship, but Mick doesn't want to help her at all. He comes from the Lion Galaxy, Viera is also capable of shapeshifting, and explains that the royal family took him and 100 others and sold them into slavery to Galvanax. Viera wants to prove that she can rule differently than her own family. The Prism suggests that the way to restore the Lion ship is by turning it into a Megazord, though it'll take some of the last bits of ninja steel they have. Once Mick completes the Zord star, it goes into Viera's armor and transfers it over to Brody, turning into a battleizer mode for him. The Lion Fire armor. Looks pretty good, nice and basic, kind of Shogun-esque armor for most of his body. The new Lion Fire Zord is pretty nice, basically a tank with a lion theme to it before it converts to a more humanoid mode, with the cockpit on the outside and right up front. Seems like kind of a major design flaw to have it right up front and without even any glass shielding you, but then again, I don't have legendary ninja powers. Viera heads off, but not before she gets Mick in contact with his parents, whom he hadn't seen in 20 years. When we reach the episode A Helping Hand, they need to invent a new star to combine their Megazords together, but only have a single piece of ninja steel left. They suggest that melting down old stars to make new ones is a possibility. I'd get rid of the motorcycle ones myself, they're not that useful. But the other thing they try to do is scan the universe for more of the same material. Still, with the new star they construct, they create the Ninja Ultrazord, which has the standard issue Megazord sitting in the center of it like a mech suit. Gotta give them credit for keeping with the aesthetic through all these combinations. At the end of the episode, a device that Victor and Monty had invented that attracts metal to them causes them to accidentally take all the ninja steel stars the Rangers had created, and Galvanax beams down to steal them. With the stars and the two teenagers in hand, Galvanax prepares to finally take the Power Stars.
This season's finale will be one to remember.
The first season comes to an end with Galvanax Rises. Using the magnet device, he's able to steal all but Brody's Power Star and kidnaps the other Rangers. Brody is able to destroy the device and escape with Mick. Meanwhile, Victor and Monty have been recruited by Madame Odious to build a larger scale version of the magnet that she can use to destroy Galvanax. And since the two are complete douchebags, they're more than happy to. They think this'll make them famous. They change their tune when Odious says she wants to destroy the Rangers too, which kinda disappoints me because I love how the two are unabashed dicks only out for themselves. It's kinda charming. An asteroid composed of ninja steel approaches the planet, a result of the search they began last time, and Mick says they can melt down their one remaining ninja star, which summons a motorcycle, to try to attract it to Earth and use it to rebuild their arsenal. Galvanax shows up again, demanding the remaining Power Star, and threatens to kill the other Rangers. Remembering his father 10 years prior, Brody chooses to destroy his Power Star rather than hand it over. And just like 10 years ago, Brody and Mick disappear in the explosion and are replaced by the Prism. Within the Prism, the three pieces of his Power Star form into 3 different red Power Stars. The Prism flies off, but not before sending out 2 of the red stars and revealing 2 Red Rangers, Brody and Mick. As Galvanax tries to attack, the 3rd star flies out and knocks him back, forming into the 3rd Red Ranger, Brody and Levi's father. He says the blast heavily injured him and the Prism kept him safe until now. With the Rangers retrieving their Power Stars, the 8 force him back, but Galvanax melts the remaining stars into liquid ninja steel and, drinks it. Enhanced by the ninja steel, he's able to fight off the Rangers. He's turned giant size as Victor and Monty, disguised as Codabots, manage to escape the ship using a teleporter and flatulence. I'm not kidding, unfortunately. In the meantime, Madame Odious uses the magnet device on Galvanax and the Rangers, revealing her traitorous nature to him. However, before it can do any damage, the Ninja Steel asteroid is attracted to the beam as well, and collides with their ship, sending it away. The Prism returns to the Rangers and inspires them to use a special attack to destroy Galvanax completely. However, the Prism is drained of all of its energy and cracks it. What's more, the damage to the Prism causes the Power Stars to disintegrate. Mick thinks that they've fulfilled their purpose and don't need to worry, especially with Galvanax gone. Everyone is happy to be reunited, and Brody and Levi fill their dad in on what he's missed the last several years. Mick says his goodbye so he can return to the Lion Galaxy.
You will always be Rangers to me.
After they sing for a bit, we pull back from Earth to the wrecked Galaxy Warrior ship, where Madame Odious rises from the debris to swear that things aren't over yet, ending Season 1. As is tradition, there are 2 season-requisite clip shows on Halloween and Christmas. The Halloween one involves them playing a horror-themed board game that looks fun as all hell, frankly. That's actually a trick by Cosmo to force the Rangers to fight monsters they've defeated before. I call it a clip show, but based on the fight footage, I think it might be unused fight footage from those episodes, which is a more clever use of a clip show than what we normally have. Mind you, it's possible that I'm just not remembering the fights well enough to recognize them as, proper clips. The Christmas one is a more traditional clip show and takes place post-season 1. It involves teaming up with Santa as they travel through time to various moments of the season to reacquire the power stars throughout history so they can fight a monster. And it just dawned on me that this episode is just the plot of Avengers Endgame, but with Santa Claus. Also, Santa is extraordinarily bored despite being stuck in a time tunnel. He doesn't even care when they accidentally slam into a police box on their way back. Oh, and apparently all Galvanax needed to do to get the Rangers to give up their power stars was to claim to be from the future and ask for them. Anyway, time for us to begin Super Ninja Steel, because we're apparently still doing that. Maybe Beast Morphers will be the same, but for now, let's start things off with Echoes of Evil. Good thing is, we'll have a fresh new villain to take things over instead of an old one.
We survived the wormhole. What dimension is this? Wrench, run a scan for energems.